Welcome everyone to Rising Out of the Chrysalis Stories That Inspire with Marissa Grace, where we share life stories of struggle and triumph, not only of my own life experiences, but also through the experiences of my own guests, as a way to help you have breakthroughs and find hope in your own life. Welcome everyone to the show. Today I will not be having a guest. Instead, I wanted to talk about this topic that I feel it's extremely important, and it's about toxic thoughts. Now, we all battle our thoughts. We all have this internal battle with our internal thinking. And what we don't realize is that those thought patterns affect our reality. It affects the life that we get to experience. So, what are toxic thoughts? Well, they're negative ideas that we cultivate in our head and negative perspectives about what should have, could have happened or what will happen. And we dwell on these negative thought patterns, and oftentimes we don't even realize that we're doing it. A good example would be to be focusing on a particular outcome, and we start dwelling on the worst case scenario, right? So if we get sick, we start saying, oh my God, I'm going to die. I'm in so much pain. And automatically we shift into this negative thinking of the worst case scenario that might happen. That, I'm going to die. What's going to happen with my family, my kids? And then we start driving everybody around us insane because we will talk about it over and over again, 24/7, about an outcome that's not even here yet. And we can't seem to separate ourselves from it. Have you ever? I'm pretty sure you either have experienced this or have a family member that is like this. It is extremely hard to help the person get out of that thinking or get ourselves out of that thought pattern. And it becomes very toxic because then it affects everybody around us. Once we start into that negative thinking, we may make our partners angry, our children, we may drive them crazy because we keep dwelling on this thought that we just convinced ourselves that's reality. And if we stay in that pattern, what ends up happening, it ends up manifesting itself. And then you go, see, it became true. Well, yeah, you created that because you dwell in that thought that it had no choice than it to come into reality. So, how do we battle these toxic thoughts? Well, number one, we have to understand where they're coming from. And one of the origins of these thoughts is our subconscious. There's always a root cause behind it. So your mind will always reflect to you patterns of past experiences and emotions. So our thoughts are interlinked with our emotions and vice versa. So if you have a particular emotion that might reflect back to an experience that you had, whether it was during childhood or early in your life, in your adulthood, it will then pair the two together and bring that negative thought to existence into your mind. It will present itself as evidence, and you'll be fixated on it because this is the correlation between the emotion that you're having in the experience that you have had in the past. But the first step is to become aware of that. The other thing that we must understand is that our mind is not a physical place. It's not something you can touch. We often think and relate to our mind as, our brain, our head. We believe our mind's right here. This is just the operating system. So I usually like to use analogies. So I'm going to use a computer system as an analogy for this because it best correlates with how our mind operates. So think of your head, your brain as just the mechanics of the computer. That's the hardware. Your mind, however, is where the information's stored. And to best describe it is the cloud, right? We all have become familiar with the cloud, which is space where all this information that the internet provides is just stored in the cloud somewhere. It's not a physical place. We can't touch it, but we know it's out there. It's a field of information. So your mind, that's what it is. It's an energetic field of information. So it's not a tangible place. It's just an energetic space that holds information and experiences. Now, just like your computer, the cloud is subject to hacking and receiving viruses and Trojans and all these negative things. And if you own a computer, I'm sure you have experienced that, where your computer has gotten a virus, has been attacked by a Trojan. Your mind is the same way. Because it's an energetic field, it's also subject to being hacked and to being interfered with, so to speak, by negative experiences, negative thoughts being fed into that field. So how does it get there? Well, one is going back to your experiences that early on in your life that you've created and the emotions that you've accumulated over time. And those become a magnet to receiving other negative thoughts and emotions into that field, into that cloud. So whenever you get a negative feeling, so let's say you get a phone call, it's bad news, now you have a negative emotion, your mind goes and into your database and searches for, okay, when did I experience this negative emotion? This was the outcome of that negative emotion. So you start thinking all these negative things. And then because it's out there, it's going to attract Trojans. So more negative is going to be attracted to that field and it start popping in. So now you start overthinking all these negative possibilities that could happen. And you don't even know where they came from. It has nothing to do with what you're actually experiencing. But now you're receiving all of this information into your mind, and you even realize it where it's coming from. So we have to be aware, number one, of our thought patterns. That's very important that we become aware. We have to be kind of step outside of the mind. And to do that, a good exercise is meditation or journaling that will help us bring the focus outside, where we can look into the thought pattern and be able to analyze it and say, is this really true? Where's this coming from? Is this are these my thoughts? Did I create these thoughts, or did they come from somewhere else? So what do I mean coming from somewhere else? Well, let's give you an example. Have you ever waken up one day and you're feeling really good, you're having a great day, then you decide to go to Walmart and go in, you do your shopping, it feels dense in there. There's a lot of people. You come home and all of a sudden you're in a bad mood and you start getting snippy with your family. You start getting aggravated, and then all these negative thoughts come into your head. You never clean up after yourself. I always have to do this. And you, all of a sudden, your mood has shifted. So, what has happened between the time that you woke up, you were in a great mood, the time that you walked into Walmart, and now you came home and you're a different person? Where did that come from? Where did those thoughts come from? Well, you attracted these Trojans because you walked into a space where there's a lot of people having a lot of emotions and experiences of themselves. And perhaps they're also having a lot of toxic thoughts. So, guess what? Those toxic thoughts go out into this energetic field and it affects everyone around them. So now you've attracted, remember, those viruses, those Trojans into your field. And because you already have subconsciously not worked on your negative thoughts and emotions, they become a magnet for those things. So now you easily attract them. And you don't even know how you got in that mood. You just came home, you're in a good mood this morning, and now you came home from the shopping experience and you feel very different. And you don't even realize that you had shifted, your mood has shifted, your thought patterns shifted. So we have to be aware of our thought patterns and then realize and ask, where are these thoughts patterns coming from? Are they mine? Are they from somewhere else? Did I invite them in? Have I allowed them to come in? And if they're not yours, then dismiss them. Say, I haven't invited you in. You weren't welcome. Why did you come in? So let's say if your doors were open in your house and someone off the street just walks in, what would you do? You would go up and confront that person and say, I haven't invited you in my house. Why are you in my house? So you have to do the same with your thoughts. Even though we can't see them, even though they're not tangible, I know it can be difficult. It can be challenging, even for those who practice self-awareness and meditate constantly. It takes practice. We have to be in being constant awareness of what's coming into our field and what we're allowing in. And be able to be consciously aware of them and changing them or negating them, not letting them in. So it's very important that we cultivate that self-awareness of these toxic thoughts. So what happens if we allow them in and we start dwelling on those? Well, we start creating all kinds of things, right? We become depressed. We become sad. We become angry. We start getting anxiety, right? We start developing all these different things that we eventually lose control of, because then we can no longer contain them because we've ignored the first step. And eventually we become sick. And all it takes is for us to be aware of these toxic thoughts. It's a simple exercise, but it can be so difficult for so many of us to do, to just have awareness of those things that come into our field, into our mind. But it's so essentially important to our well-being. I cannot express this enough of how important it is to be aware. And to even for someone that is aware and does the work, sometimes, we may get lazy for a day, right? It's like, oh, I feel really good. I'm just going to put my guard down. Before we know it, we're in a state of being sad and angry, and we don't even know how we got there. So it's a constant thing that we have to be on guard for, because it's not something we can see. It's not something we can grasp with our hands. It's not physically, we can't physically feel it or taste it or smell it. It's something that we have to just be aware of, consciously aware of at all times. So it does take practice. And if it's a difficult thing to do, it's always good to find help, someone that can help us through that journey of becoming more aware of those thoughts, that can guide us in the process of awareness, and guide us in the process of changing those thought patterns around. So this was the message that I wanted to give out to you today, and hopefully help you in some way, as I know so many of us are struggling with this. So many of us are not aware of our negative thinking and how toxic it is in our lives. But yet we try to seek answers, everything outside of the one thing that's so important. You know, we try to go to the doctor, we try to go to a friend, we try to go here, there, psychic, medium, whatever, trying to gather answers for everything. But this is so simple, and you can do this. I know it can be hard at first, but if you just practice and just become aware of one thing and start changing that one thing today, then you become aware of another thing tomorrow. Then you start practicing how to change that second thing tomorrow. And slowly you'll be able to turn this whole negative conversation that you have with yourself around. But you have to take initiative. You have to start. You have to start today. You have to start becoming aware. A good way to do that is to write it down, becoming aware of it and writing it down. You soon will notice how much trash you talk to yourself. You'll notice how much negativity exists within your thinking, within the words that you speak. So every time you say something, notice what you're saying, notice what words you're using, because your mind's always listening. So it doesn't matter if you're speaking to somebody else or referring to them, your mind's still listening to the way you speak. So how you speak to yourself usually is how you speak to others as well. Are you speaking in a way that is loving, that, comes from a good place? Or does it come from a negative place? Are you treating somebody like they're crap, they're stupid? Are you appreciating for who they are and for what they're contributing? Usually how we treat others is a reflection on how we feel inside. So again, there's always a root cause behind our negative thinking. It has an origin. And that origin, we have to dig deep and find out, where is it coming from? When did I experience this? So if I feel stupid, if I think I'm stupid, if every time I do something I say, I'm so stupid, I can't believe I did this, where is that coming from? When in your life were you treated and told that you're stupid? Because I'm sure you'll see the pattern. So now you believed it to be true, and you keep treating yourself the same way. And not only that, you are treating others in that same manner because it makes you feel better. But it really doesn't, right? It feels better in the moment because you don't understand. It's not that you're a bad person. You just don't have the understanding that it's happening. So the first step is to be aware. So I hope everyone will take that advice and become more aware of their thinking and start analyzing their thoughts and start questioning where are they coming from and start changing them one at a time. And I promise you, if you do this and you start noticing and changing it, you'll start seeing a shift in your life. You start seeing a shift in how you feel and how you experience life. So that was the message I had for you today, and I hope you enjoy it. Until next time.